All right, we're back at it again with another episode of the 80/20 podcast. Today, I have someone that is, again, you guessed it, an internet friend up to this point. I'm very much looking forward to diving a little bit deeper. This is Brent Kromer of Closers for Fitness. My dude, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm not too bad, man. It's been a good day. Sticking with the Red Bull to keep my eyes open, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you making the time. Could we start, right? I think that Closers for Fitness it's pretty straightforward what that business is. I want to kind of start back with where you came from, right?
Sure.
And how you even got there. Now, doing a weensy bit of research, I know that you got your BSN and your MBA both at Toledo, right?
Yep.
And then you went into nursing and you were bedside, then went to organs, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Why did you make that transfer from bedside to organs in the first place, though?
Oh, interesting. Good question, by the way. Definitely did your research there. So yeah, I was bedside. I was an ICU nurse. I got my first job. I was in neuro ICU. I came from ER as like in throughout nursing school. That's fun. And I want to get a little bit more critical. I really like, shout out to my nurses out there if you're listening, but I like walking into a room and seeing just this disastrous Christmas tree full of drips and all these wonderful medications running. That's what would get me excited, right? So I did that. I did that for about 3 years in neuro ICU. It's a lot of doom and gloom, a lot of strokes, head traumas, a lot of sad cases. So when the opportunity arose, I did some travel nursing, bounced all around the country. I was started out in Michigan. I met my now girlfriend, which has been great, 3 years now. She traveled with me out west. We went to all over California, did a whole bunch of COVID nursing out there. And then I got a call while we were in the middle of travel nursing, right as it was starting to dry up a little bit. It was like the heavens opened up for me. Got a call and offered a job to come and be a organ recovery coordinator back home in my hometown where we could settle down and not live on the road for a little while. So I jumped on it. It was a wild ride, that's for sure.
Knowing what you know now, would you have done it the same way, or would you have tried to go somewhere else and gone back to the ICU?
No, no, no. I was again, if any nurses are here listening, I had that ship had sailed through COVID. We had worked so much, man. We were getting paid just an obscene amount of money. And at the time, I think I maybe played the system a little bit in hindsight, but the hotels were offering free stay if you were a nurse. Any room in the hotel, it was open to nurses, no cost. So we just traveled and lived in really cool hotels. After my contract ended, we stayed traveling for another 2 months. And since they canceled my contract early as a travel nurse, mind you, this was like, I don't know, like 8K a week, not bad as a nurse. They canceled it early and kept paying us. Like they paid out the rest of our contract. So we were getting like 8,000. I was getting like $8,000 a week, living in hotels for free, traveling the country for like 2 months. Insane. So yeah, I was ready to
This
settle down.
goodness, that's probably at that point in your life, is that a decent amount of cash?
That was good, man. Yeah, I was coming from, bedside nursing before
Mhm.
traveling. Realistically, we were making 4K a month take home. So 8K, they paid a little bit less on like when they canceled. It might have been closer to five. I think it was eight when we were actively working, 8 to 10. So it's probably closer to five is what they kept paying us after they canceled the contract. And I got that for a good month. So another 20K in my pocket. And I wasn't paying anything for hotels. So it was a fun time. And Brooke and I had just started dating. So we were like 3 months in and we were just living this like Hollywood felt like a movie.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a lot of net free cash flow to kind of do whatever the heck you want with little to no expenses.
Hmm.
Did that lead you to going into buying your first property, like because of that money, that inflow, or?
That's exactly what it did. Yeah. So when I moved back home, I've got a very close friend he's got about close to 40 doors, which he's acquired in just under 2 years, which he's really on it. He's a close friend. He's actually in the fitness business. He's owned a very successful fitness coaching company online for the past almost 8 years. He was kind of one of the OG ones. So I came home, got to talking to him, and we had this duplex that sat on the market for a long time, and it was disgusting. And we bought it. We picked it up cash. We are you familiar with like the burr process?
I don't know what burr is. I've gone through the commercial, the SBA and the commercial conventional side for commercial real estate.
Sure.
Done nothing with residential at all.
Yeah. So essentially the concept of burr is buy, rehab, refinance, repeat. I might be missing an R. I think there might be four R's, but you guys get it, right? Essentially you buy um not a great property, a distressed property, put some money into it, right? Get it back up to par, increase market rents. You can do this commercial as well, by the way. Once you get it to a point, commercial is much better because then you're working with cap rates. And then when you refi, it's basically a multiplier. But with residential, we bought it for like 60 grand.
Mm-hmm.
We paid cash. We split it. We thought it would take about 20 to rehab. It took about 60, which was not cool for our first one, but that's the way it goes. So we had 120 in, and then the idea is to refi, which appraised at 140. So we had 20K ish of buffer, but then of course you have to leave in 20%. So we got $140,000 property for, I think we left maybe 5 or 10 grand in. Not bad. Not bad.
Not the end of the world there.
No.
Now, when you did that, was that something like you had wanted to get into real estate previously, or that was something you were like, oh man, my homie is doing this, and so this is something that I want to do eventually, and you were just like, I got the money now, so I'm going to do it.
Good question. So real estate's always been always been something that I've wanted to get into. In fact, if you talk to my accountant, pretty much every free dollar that comes through C4F goes right into another property. So it's still, it has not changed. It's been like that since that was my high school dream, was just to buy a bunch of properties.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a dream that you've had for a while. Now, is this something that you and your girlfriend are aligned in? Does she want to own 100 properties by 30?
She does. She does. Now, right now with her business, it's kind of she's growing at a very steady rate. So right now we're keeping cash in her business, which is going to allow her to pivot and do some different things. Once we hit a certain threshold of where she's really comfortable with that, then she'll start pulling away from that account and putting into real estate as well. So it's a good system because Scott, my buddy, we're hands off. We're hands off at this point. So I just give him the money. He analyzes the property, he buys the property, he sends me the financials. And at this point we were 50-50. Now it's a little bit higher. Like I'm funding most of them and he's just taking a management fee. So I'm completely hands off. I just get paid.
That's pretty nice.
It's a dream.
Well, and also it's got to be pretty nice while your sole focus is other things, right? While your sole focus
100%.
is pouring into other business owners that maybe remind you of where your girlfriend was when you helped her scale from 3 to 30, right? Can you
Yes.
walk me through why you even got to a point where you're like, hey, let me help her. Like I can take my bedside manners to this. Like how the heck did you get there?
I'm going to let you guys in on something here. Scott, my real estate buddy, he had when I was a nurse, he told me, I was like, dude, I don't know if I want to keep, continue nursing. He's like, you should try high ticket sales. I was like, what is that? I've never even heard, like, what, you want me to work for like a telemarketer or something? And he introduced me to Jeremy Miner, right? Which
Ooh,
this
seventh
was
level,
years
baby.
ago. Yes. Hello,
I
Jeremy.
met Matt Ryder actually this weekend at
Oh,
Gym
did you?
Con in Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How is he?
hilarious dude. Hilarious dude.
Jeremy's great. I won't share too much, but I'm chatting with some people with his team on possibly, maybe a little project down the road. We'll see what happens. So it's kind of cool to see that come full circle. But yeah, he told me about Jeremy. Scott told me about Jeremy Miner. I started watching some of his videos. I was like, this guy's pretty sick. And then I just put a pin in it. And then a year later, Brooks got her business going. She sucked at sales. She hates when I tell this story, but she did. She was just awful. So I started watching some more of his TikToks and I said, just give me that phone. Let me give it a try. And I was just kind of using, piecing together little things I heard him say. And it was working. It was actually like working. It wasn't working well, but it was working better than what she had going on.
Mhm.
So I was like, this is fun. Like this is so much fun. So I back to Scott again. He had bought the course and never even activated it. So I bought it off of him at like half the price. Went through the course, loved it, signed up for another one, loved it, got private mentorship from some of their top guys. And and that was a seed for C4F there.
And that seed, how long did you work in girlfriend's business doing just fitness sales
Mm-hmm.
before you decided to branch out and then go into, hey, I'm going to help other people like this?
Mm-hmm. So it was September 2021. So September, October, November, December, January, February. Around January, another close friend, maybe you know her, Alex Brown. She's
Of an NLCA?
yeah,
Alex Brown.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So her and I actually went to nursing school together.
Wow.
Which is again,
Tiny
all of
world.
this, I tell you, it's wild how all of this kind of came together.
Mhm.
So it's a fun story to tell. But essentially, I just reached out. She said she was hiring a closer. I said, hey, I've been slinging deals over here. Let me get a shot. She hired me, and I crushed it. I mean, to be honest with you. Um, so I apologize. My internet a little slow.
It's fine coming through. I mean, the video is a little jumpy. It's all good though. The audio's
Beautiful.
fine.
So yeah, I tried some sales calls for her. Things went really well. She loved it. And then she told some friends who told some friends. Next thing I know, I was selling for 5 coaches full time, quit my job as an organ recovery coordinator. And so it began.
So when you first jumped in with your girlfriend, before you get to Alex Brown and before you get to the other four, or
Hmm.
maybe other three, I don't know if you're still selling for your girlfriend there. But what
Hmm.
was your close rate like when you were just piecing together TikTok? Because I've done the same thing with Cardone stuff, with a bunch of
Hmm.
other people that I followed for ages, right? Like, oh, let me try this, let me try
Sure.
these words, let me try that, and
Yeah.
piecing all of it together doesn't always work too well. I mean, you might feel good on the
No.
laydowns, right? But it's not really the whole process, a
Hmm.
scripted process, a theatrical engagement, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
So, like, what was closing looking like? Were you having any success in the beginning? Were you just like, yo, this is fun, but I suck?
So I was having success
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, but let me tell you, it was short lived because, like you said, if things go perfectly, then they go perfectly. But it's as soon as they say something that you didn't expect or they throw something at you that was not in that 14-second TikTok, you're like you're caught on your heels. You have you have no idea what to say.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where like that's and it took a few of those moments for me to realize that I am not that sweet. Right. I look like someone who has just learned off of TikTok, which is why I took Jeremy's course very seriously, went through it 2, 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
bought into the 3.0. And yeah, that's a funny story too. But I went crazy with it. Me and a couple guys, we created all these subgroups of the like closing uh, academy basically,
Mm-hmm.
and we had all these role plays. I was hosting role plays all around the world. Um, in the middle of the night, I'd get done with a 12-hour shift of organ recovery, come home and host with like 10 dudes for like 3 hours of role play. I was not getting much sleep for a long time. So when the moment came, I left that job. I was selling for 5 coaches. My goal was to hit 10K. Eventually, no real set timeline. I hit 10K that month. So that was cool.
Why do you think that you yourself took it serious enough to be pulling 15-hour shifts and everyone else that has the monetary access to get into a program like
Mhm.
that or to get in your program doesn't take it as seriously?
I get obsessed with things like really, really quickly. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, maybe a little bit of both. If I find out that I'm not very good at something, I will not sleep and I will again, I will obsess over things until I become very good at them. So yeah, the money was great. I was making as a recovery coordinator, I think I made like 110. So money like was fine. We had a nice house in the suburbs. We had our whole thing we thought we wanted. We were living like 40-year-olds at mid 20s. And and yeah, just realizing like how much better things could be, like if I was just better at sales, how many doors that opens, how many opportunities that would present. I was like, dude, I got to keep working at this. I hear the kind of money other people are making, and it made my 100K seem like pennies. So yeah.
Wow. So it wasn't the pain that drove you, like so many other stories. It wasn't that you
No.
hated your existence and like, got to figure this out, got to prove dad wrong, got to prove myself wrong, got to prove all these people wrong, like some other people in the online space have done, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
like my guiding forces
Mm-hmm.
to make my dad teeny, right?
Sure.
It was really just like I see this land of opportunity and I want a piece.
Um, you know, there's some other factors that go into there, much deeper factors. Growing up, I was one of six, and I'm not gonna get terribly deep here. But one of six, we grew up single income, so it was like it. There's definitely like that aspect of it. Like I want more, and living in the suburb, living in like the nice little neighborhood, making a comfortable little salary. I thought growing up that was like the pinnacle, right? That was everything I ever envied growing up, is seeing that with other families. And then once I got there, man, I'm like, this is lame. This is so lame. I've had enough. So the goal was to get so good at sales that I could go fully remote. We could sell the house and we could move and live on the road. That was the goal. I didn't like the suburb life, and to this day, I don't think I'll ever go back.
And that was the goal. And what happened today?
Today, man, we sold the house officially, and I am homeless. Brooke and I are officially homeless.
Now, in that first month that you quit the Oregon job, you get into a place where you're making a pretty ridiculous amount of money from almost, hey, not doing that from the sales side. Did you have a obstacles that you had to go through from a mentality standpoint because you weren't raised in a place where it was abundant because you were one of six and one income?
Yeah, so and maybe that's why I live a very on a very, let me preface, what we bring in now from C4F is only something I could have dreamed of, right? It's amazing, right? And I don't take that for granted in any capacity. In fact, I live very modestly. I live on less than probably most viewers here,
Mhm.
which is a strange concept, I know. Essentially, what we do, the way we structure things, just to give everybody a little insight here, we, and I'm going to put you guys onto something very cool here too, by the way. It's called Furnish Finder. Okay. Are you familiar, James?
Never heard of it. School me.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was a nurse, we would use Furnish Finder. In between like the hotels, you could rent houses that were completely furnished and very cheap and longer term. So now we just live in Furnish Finders. So you go on their website. It's like a little mom and pop website, but it is a multi-million-dollar company at this point. It's big. And we rent 6 months at a time. So our goal is to see as much of the country as we can. We're in Scottsdale right now um, for 3 more weeks. And then we go to North Carolina. We've got a house on the Lake Norman there for the next 6 months. And then we'll go back to San Diego. And we're just going to keep bouncing back and forth until we see as much of this country as we can. So, aside from that, which is actually not very expensive, like what we spend is less than a lot of people's mortgages. Everything else just goes to real estate, every single dollar.
Now, any particular I know that there's multiple schools of thought, right? With
Mhm.
reinvestment into, hey, scaling a team or putting it in another investment vehicle. I mean, is there any reason outside of just your love for real estate on why you would drop into all of that now instead of scale your team bigger?
Let me explain that a little bit better. So we reinvest a lot back into the team and into different systems. And I always have coaches. I have 3 coaches in my corner pretty much at any given time. So I'm spending a lot of money on mentorship. Anything that makes it past that, right? So minus business expenses and expenditures, personal expenses. money that would go in the bank. Essentially, what I did, is it the best way? I don't know. I'll put you on to something else really cool here too, a little personal finance thing. Wealthfront app. Are you familiar with that?
No, dude, I'm learning so many things. Keep going.
Yeah, yeah. So download Wealthfront. For anybody listening here, Wealthfront, you get a 4.3 APR, which is amazing. It blows any bank in existence out of the water. And if you refer people, it gives you a zero point 0.5 boost. So like I've been, and I refer enough people at C4F. I just stay at 4.8% interest. So what I did was I put a fair sum of money into Wealthfront, and that's my essentially it's a year's savings. If things went totally south, everything went under for whatever reason, I can survive for an entire year without working. And it's building so much interest that it's like I'm just making a really good amount of money each month. Good, not like an insane amount, but a good amount of money just off interest. So what I did was I put that sum of money away as like my safety net. Um, and then everything else that's left over after business expenses just goes right to Scott, and Scott buys the properties, manages them, and pays me quarterly.
Okay. So you have this goal of 100 units by 30. First of all, how
Mm-hmm.
old are you?
I am 27.
27. And how close are we to that 100?
Not as close as I'd like. We started at 26. So I'm a year in. I've got 8 properties, and we're looking to get another 26 unit under contract by the end of the month. So that'll push me a little bit further.
Okay. And if you grab that, then you'll be a third of the way, literally in under a year and a
Yeah.
half, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
a hell
So
of a trajectory. I would assume that if a client of yours had a run rate that they were trying to get to, and they set a
yeah,
goal of 3 or 4 years out, and in a year they're a third of the way there,
sure.
we're doing
Sure.
pretty solid. No.
It wouldn't be too bad. I'm hoping it compounds. Like now, you know, now I'm one of the main people putting the money in, so I have to put a little bit more in. Could I have
Mhm.
more if like we had more investors? Sure. But that's okay. I'm okay with it being a little bit slower for kind of like that higher percent.
Yeah. No, I think that that definitely makes sense. I'd like to kind of dive into a little bit of the business side, right? The real estate
Sure.
sounds like something that I mean you could probably talk about for hours and hours,
Yeah,
because it's been a
probably.
dream since you've been young. But on the business side, with Closers for Fitness,
Hmm.
what's your new unique selling proposition against? And I'm not trying to paint a target on anybody else in the industry, but
Sure.
the Chidesters, the
Mhm.
Mullinix, the like take anyone that their ads never stop popping up in my face, right?
Sure.
Take their name out, put your name in, pull your name out, put their name in. Like,
Hmm.
what's different about y'all?
So there's something really interesting that I found. I do a lot of market research, and I speak with a lot of students on how we can improve. Again, when I tell you I'm obsessed with being the absolute best in the space with sales. So a lot of what I do is I want to understand why things didn't work out with their previous coach, or if it did work out, what worked out well, and where do they feel like they missed the ball, right? And so I'm constantly studying each client that comes through our doors, and what I'm finding was actually something very surprising. Um, Most companies don't really have a sales process, right? Most coaches, they market a sales process, but the sales process doesn't really extend past, hey, here's our script, right? But no data on the script, no KPIs. They're not tracking to make sure that you're actually using that script and closing deals. They just want more deals. The idea has always been if you can bring in more leads, right? Eventually that's going to equate to more sales, which equates to scaling. But what I found, and again, maybe this goes back to like getting the MBA, but I'm a nerd about the data. I don't like businesses that scale without efficiency. Okay, you can flood your pipeline with 2,000 leads a month, and you might hit 100K, and that's garbage. That's not good. Okay, it's not good at all. And I've seen it over and over and over. These businesses that just scale with volume, and then once that volume dries up, James, what do you suspect happens?
Oh, I mean, you got to, you sell 2,000 people to a program, or you sell, 500 people into a program, and you don't have anything to catch them on the back end. Well, then you got to resell another 500 people the next month
Mhm.
just to keep
Yep.
up with the ad spend,
Sure.
just to keep up with the team that you have. Like you don't have a
Exactly.
business. You're just cash injecting. every
Yep.
single month, hoping that you can stay alive.
You've got a bucket and there's about 8 holes in the bottom, and you just got to your whole think about this. I used to relate it like this, James. Have you ever built you a camping guy, you an outdoors guy?
Done some camping, done
Okay.
more construction than I've done camping.
Nice.
We did a lot of honeydew ministry when I was younger. My dad was very handy and we worked on everybody's house.
Beautiful.
Did not go camping, really spent our weekends doing
Yeah,
that instead.
that's okay. Hey, I love that. Get out and use your hands. Now, but you'll be able to appreciate this analogy, right? If you've built a fire, if anyone's built a fire or even sat around a fire, right? There's usually one person. If you don't stack up that wood next to the fire, what are you doing the entire time? You're constantly going back out into the woods, gathering more firewood, sitting down just long enough to see it burn, right? Have a drink of your beer. Then you're going back and you're getting more firewood because you didn't set yourself up well. You're constantly working to keep that fire going. Okay. That is a lot of business owners that I've come across is they're working so hard that they don't get to actually enjoy and they don't get they don't get the warmth of the fire. They don't get to enjoy that aspect because they're always working to keep this fire going. Okay. I hate that. I hate that. It's not a sustainable business model. I've seen people doing mid 7 figures get so burnt out that they sell or quit because it's just not sustainable. So I preach a lot to a lot of fitness pros. If you've got a sustainable business model, you're doing $500,000 a year and you're maximizing your leads, that's a good life. It's a good life if you're able to live it. What's not cool is doing 7 figures and again, just hunting for firewood.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you work with people though that want that life, that second life you just said?
I do. I do. Initially. And then a lot of people, it's not that they give up on their goals, it's that they become more, it becomes more real and they realize that is possible. And then they start getting up around those numbers that would sustain that lifestyle. And they're like, there's a lot of stress. I'm like, yeah, there is. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Okay. And if you want that, that's okay. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you get there. But it's unlikely. And most people do not want that. They think they want that because of this picture that's painted. I'm here to tell you there's a lot of stress that comes with that lifestyle. And if you can have a great lifestyle and balance with a great amount of money, what's that extra couple 100,000 going to do? Not much. And your net margins decrease exponentially. So you're even taking home even less, right? It's like that concept of James, it's like marginal benefit, right? Have you ever heard that concept?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like that first piece of pizza. Great. 10 out of 10, man. That's exactly what I needed. Then you eat that second piece, and you're like, that was good. It's good. Then you eat that third piece, and you're like, okay, all right. Right. Doesn't feel as good, doesn't taste as good, doesn't hit the same. Then you have that fourth piece, and you're like, damn it, damn it, damn it. Why did I do that? Right. It's the same thing with money. There's a sweet spot. You just got to find it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of parallels there with business and health overall, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this third beer, oh, fourth
Yep.
beer, and when it then
Exactly.
becomes like, oh man, that's 3 days in a row,
Yep.
right? That's 4 days
Yep.
in a row. Why? Because I'm trying to escape my life. Well, hold
Mm-hmm.
on. We got
Yep.
bigger problems to figure out than you need to lose some fat, right?
Yep. Good
If
point.
that's why you're drinking.
Very
Um,
good point.
for closers for fitness, man, what's a North Star for you, right? If you don't want to be that rat race entrepreneur
Mhm.
in the seven
Yeah,
figs,
yeah.
what's North Star?
North Star, I've actually only just identified it, which is a really cool thing. What we found is, a lot of companies, this is why I'll not speak bad about any companies. They're realizing we've made enough of a splash, which is cool. Where a lot of companies are realizing, oh, we don't have that, and we haven't had that, and we just really capitalized on a good market, right? It's like that. It's like that quote. Is it hard to make money in a bull market, right? No, no, it's not. And so many of these business coaches, um, they did really well in a bull market in 2020, 2021, where like people were just buying. There was extra capital, right? That's not the case anymore. The buyer mentality has shifted drastically. There's not a ton of extra cash floating around, especially when gas is $5 a gallon here in, Phoenix, Scottsdale area. So now there's a purging, right? There's a lot of fitness pros that are going and getting 9 to 5s. There's a lot of business coaches that are dwindling. And what they're realizing is that, yeah, they capitalize on a good market. That's phenomenal. I don't hold that against them, right? I wish I'd been around during that. Okay. But they're realizing that, that's not the case, and that won't be the case moving forward. So a lot of them have actually reached out to me to see about how we can plug C4F into their program through like a licensing deal. So that's without divulging so deeply into licensing and all the fun stuff, that is likely the North Star, is like, how can we get our process into more coaches' hands? And the more coaches we help, the more fit pros we help. And you know how that goes, right? The more people we help. And that's the intention of all of this.
Wow, this is oddly reminiscent of another story that I know of somebody that was in the turnaround business, that then, had chargebacks, had other stuff in market happen, decided to go a different direction, then started licensing, then made an exit for 40 to 60 million
Not
a
bad.
year ago. It's very interesting the way that you're going. And I mean, my next question, you kind of answered it, was going to be, it seems as though you being your coaches, your process, right? The push pull, the tone shifts, the way that you do business, being the foundation, the backbone of what a lot of these other online businesses need. Because I don't believe, from seeing your content, from being in your Facebook group, from communicating with people that before I ever spoke to you, spoke very highly of you when I was in another program. You're not selling people on how to make money without having made it yourself. You're selling people on a way for them to impact their clients better by implementing something that you can prove to that's worked. And your main driver is not, or was not in the beginning, right, selling other people on the process. It was making the money yourself. And I think that that's something that a lot of these online businesses have been missing. Is like, they're like, hey, I did take any influencer. I did $1.2 million last year in fitness sales, selling, $4,200 packages with FinFi with $0 down, right? 84-month loans, 0% same as cash. Cool. Hear ya. Totally hear ya. But if that's your ad and that's what you're selling to other people that do not know how to fulfill, do not know how to ascend, do not know how to actually get people experiences, well, then all you're doing is selling your lottery tickets, as Naval says, right, to them, rather than a process that they can actually implement to help people better.
Exactly. What a good takeaway there. And that was something that worked out a lot better than I could have imagined. Like it's one thing to get them in, and I, when just to be transparent with you, when we developed a sales process, the intention was, hey, if we can get them over the line, like, it's up to you to kind of crush it with them. But what we found is that when you can have the really intimate conversation, that really raw, like uncut, unfiltered conversation with them in a systemized way, you build more trust than I could have ever hoped for, which has allowed them to actually become better clients and like re-sign, and the longevity and the results. They're just more compliant. They're just more compliant long-term, which not perfect. Let me preface, okay? They are not perfect. People have cancellations. People have chargebacks, okay? That happens, okay? But overall, they are much better clients, because that's another thing that we track with our clientele, is I like to get a lot of feedback. So that's been a phenomenal thing. Second thing, I want to take note of something that you mentioned there, James. FinFi. If you guys see all of these PIFs, none, zero, zilch, not one of them has been financed. Okay. Someone brought this to my attention the other day. They mentioned like, oh yeah, you guys must use like a financier because I'm posting about PIFs. Not one. No. That's predatory hilarious. Loans. Yeah. I never even thought that was the impression we were giving. All of these $4,200 PIFs, I have them rolling in across my screen as we're speaking, by the way. Not one of them has been financed. Am I opposed to it? No. But if we can get away with without introducing somebody into a poor loan with poor terms, yes, we're going to do that.
Yeah. No, I think that's fascinating. And who outside of your business would even know that you are or are not doing that? And most people wouldn't even know that financing existed either, unless they had been in other programs and it had been pitched to them. Like, hey, here's your 12 months like this, 18 months like this, and then it's 22% after the 8. 18 months. So like, hope you make your money back, because if you can't pay
It's
this
back
off,
charged. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
it's across the whole principal, all of it,
Mhm.
not
Yep.
from today on, everything. And so
Yep.
it's gonna, a loan's gonna cost you $14,000 for $7,500.
Hey, listen, I hired a company. I won't say the name for financing for the B2B side of things. Right. And I applied and, my numbers are pretty good, like from a personal finance standpoint, and they quoted me at 11%. And I was like, 11%? You are quoting everywhere on your website that as low as 5.9%. And they're like, it is as low. I was like, well, if I can't get it with my 800 and whatever credit score and all of this, and this is not me bragging, by the way, I was like, if I can't get it, who can? Right. And the people that we're bringing in that need financing likely do not have that same financial picture. So I actually fired that company. Like I cut the whole company off. We don't use them for financing because I don't believe in that. I don't like that. So fun fact there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it comes down to the ethics piece, right? And this is something
Mhm.
I'd be very interested to have an understanding of how you feel about ethics in business. I think we're in the market where like most of these companies that we're talking about that are online. I had a guy on by the name of Nick Flamini. He works for the SMB team doing high ticket, like 80 plus $1,000 tickets for attorneys. He used
Mhm.
to be a coach at Gym Launch. Had him on the podcast. We chatted for like 2.5 hours. Solid
Nice.
dude, very very solid dude. But he brought up something, and it was that a lot of these coaching programs for Fit Bros, not the sales organizations, but these organizations that are running you through like, hey, your first 10K, your first 10K
Mhm.
months, your first this, that, and the other, they're all mentored by the same person. And they're all
Really?
getting downstream effects from one person that's making more money than all of them. And what's very interesting to me is that what was told to me from him
Mhm.
on and off camera, and he was very open about this. He was like, look, you're just getting a Kroger brand or a Walmart version of a luxury person or a luxury product or
Sure.
the cream of the crop. You're just getting
Mhm.
that watered down by paying $5,000 or $7,000 instead of paying 40. And it's
Sure.
very interesting to me not having any understanding that this was actually going on or that any of them knew each other until
Mm.
you just go look at tag photos, go look at masterminds, go look at um, the conferences,
Yep.
right? These
The
big business
conferences are the
conferences,
big giveaways. Yeah.
and then you see who's hugging each other and who's
Mhm.
got content together and who's coming on each other's podcasts, and they're both seem to be big people.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Most of them are being mentored by one or two people.
Yep. And
Hilarious.
it is. It truly is. And and that's why I shouted, by the way, that's why I shouted out Jeremy Minor right in the beginning. A lot of people will claim that these ideas are all theirs. By no means that I steal anything from Jeremy. Like this is 100% organic, not 100%, but everybody learns from somebody else. And I think that's something that people are not transparent about in this space at all, in the coaching space. If you talk to any high level coach, most of the time they're not going to give you any insight as to where they got that from. I'll give you, and a lot of what what I built was influenced by very specific people. I can give a couple mentors right off the top of my head that had a major impact on what I do. And then I give away the books. I gave away like my 5 or 3 favorite books in a podcast the other day. If you listen to these books, you'll hear a lot of our verbiage comes from them. It's a compilation of all of these things. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I don't like when people pretend that, I just woke up and this blank model came to me. It's like, really? Because I've seen that before. I've seen a very
Yeah.
similar model.
And I listened to the podcast that you're talking about where you shouted out Chris Voss, where you shouted out
Mm-hmm.
Oren Klaff, where you
Mm-hmm.
shouted out Go for the No, right?
You are impressive, my friend.
Those three things are books that I've also read, and they are
Yeah.
very solid. And I want to give you a little bit of gratitude here because I did a little test. I was in Jeremy Miner's group, and I remember sending you a screenshot of you speaking highly of seventh level. And without
Mm.
telling you that I had seen that, I asked you a question
Mm.
to see how
Okay.
ethical you were.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that without even a hesitation, you said, absolutely. Great program. 100%.
That is funny. That's funny.
And it's after I'd already seen the screenshot that you posted on the reviews yourself.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Just to see
No,
what kind of
I'm
person you were, dude. Legitimately.
I'm
And you
as
did not even flinch. You were just like,
yeah.
yep, 100%.
I appreciate that. Yeah. No, it's something I think the space is missing a lot of honesty. And I think it's a product and maybe you feel otherwise, but I think it's a product of everybody constantly pushing out, hey, I made this, I made this, I did this, I did this. So it's like become this how do I say, like just a big measuring competition, right? Where everybody has to outdo, and they're just throwing out all these hyperinflated numbers and these hyperinflated concepts, which are just derived from somebody else. And so the lack of honesty in the industry, and again, I'm not saying anybody specifically. If you feel targeted, maybe there's some validity to it, right? But regardless, I think honesty and ethics are should be making a comeback if I have anything to say about it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, man. I think that, I'm happy to when I have certain phrases that just hit the brain centers correctly. I'm happy to
Hmm.
shout out Alex Hormozy. I'm happy to
Hmm.
shout out whoever else I got that from, right? If it was Cardone, whoever it was, like it's not mine to play with my ego. And it
Yeah.
actually, when people figure out where you actually got something from and you've been passing it off on your own, you've lost trust forever.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a good look. And make it yours. This is all I preach every single day. And our I just had a seminar this morning. Make it yours, just like our script. I wrote the damn script. Okay. I
Mhm.
know what it sounds like. I don't want you to read it back to me because it's my all I can hear is my voice come out of your mouth. I hate that. Okay. Make it yours. They are just words on a screen. And it's not until students, but like we see sales like literally just go vertical the very moment that people like find their voice and they realize, oh, I'm not here to sound like Brent. Like I'm me. I have a unique way of doing this. I'm going to make this script my own. So it's no different than when you're learning from these mentors or reading these books or taking these concepts from podcasts or TikTok or YouTube or wherever you see it. Listen to it, read it a few times, say it a few times, and say, how can I make this mine? How can I make this sound like Brent and not James or not Jeremy or not Hermosi? And that's when it becomes yours. It was inspired by somebody, but now it's yours. Right.
Yeah, 100%. How much of that do you think should happen after you can prove the efficacy of it, implementing it just as it's written, though?
Say that one more time.
I have a strong feeling that a lot of people get into programs, and I saw this with some students in one of the programs that I jumped into. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't work for me. But they weren't
Yes.
implementing it as it was written, as it was done, as the workflows and go high level were made. They were going
Mm-hmm.
in and changing everything to make it sound like me and changing pictures and changing this, but they weren't implementing the systems that we could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt had generated, right, the revenue that you're
Mm-hmm.
claiming to have had, right, the
Sure.
$3.4 million, right, in
Mm-hmm.
2022. If they take what you have and they change everything, like, oh, this sounds
Oh,
better, this
sure.
sounds more like me, how much of that should be just yanked and
Yep.
implemented specifically and tried out before you iterate?
So there's a framework. I like structure, right? I
Mm-hmm.
like structure. I like I like the rails on the bowling alley, right? So that's where sales coaching comes in. I give away that damn script to plenty of people every single day.
Your ads
Literally
are
people,
everywhere, by the way.
yeah.
They're everywhere.
Oh, really?
I see
I'll
your
give
face
a
all the time. All the time.
beautiful. I'll talk to my media team. That's great. We give this thing away all over, all day, every day. But for whatever reason, people do use it and they do close deals, but they always wind up coming back and asking for more. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that, I think, plays off of what you just said. They use it, but they use it so perfectly that it works in certain occasions, and then they realize I need something. Something is missing. It's no different than any other marketing in the entire world. I gave you the key ingredient, but you don't have the supporting cast. The supporting cast is learning the nuances of how to use it, right? It is a tool, but it has to have other tools to work as it should, right? So that's where we come in. We do a lot of one-to-one coaching. We do a lot of group coaching, but we like where the real progress has made it is in those one-to-one sessions, just me and you or our head coach and you. And
Mm-hmm.
we do a lot of one-to-ones. And it's those moments, James, where I can take a student, I can review their call and I can say, okay, that's where we went off. We went off into the weeds there. That's where we lost it. Look at her facial expression. Look at her posture. We lost it because we did X, Y, and Z. Okay. You didn't stick to the framework. Okay. You could say whatever it is you want within the framework as long as you're asking the questions in your own way. But when you go off into the weeds, I can tell you exactly when you lose a sale every single call.
Yeah, fair enough. You say jump from the plane and build the wings on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Strong beginnings and strong endings.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to that?
I read it in a book. I couldn't tell you which book. I wish I could. I think it's a good concept. I think it's a good concept. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in the middle. And if you want a fully planned out journey, it's not going to happen. And if you expect that, when you get slapped in the face for the first time and you don't know how to respond because everything you read said that it would go perfectly, you're not equipped mentally to really see it through. So I live and die by the model of I'm just gonna start and I'm gonna start really strong. Okay. And then whatever happens in the middle, I just go into it with the intention of I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And then a strong finish is what we're all looking for.
Radical, messy action. That's a beautiful
Yes.
thing. Most people
Yep.
are, in my experience, not willing to take it on their fitness, on their health, to ask
Hmm.
out the girl or the guy or
Yep.
whoever. They're not willing to do it on their business. They're pontificating forever. Oh man, I can't leave my $40,000 job to go try to do this on my own.
Hmm.
Like, what do you really have to lose? You know what I mean? What do you
Hmm.
really have to lose?
It's a question we ask in every single sales call. It's called cost of inaction. It's step 8 in the script. If you have the script, go ahead and open it up. It's what if you don't do anything about this, right? What if you continue on the exact same plan and method and lifestyle that you have right now, right? What does that actually look like in 6, 12, or 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And if that answer, how you answer that is going to determine what I'm going to recommend from a coaching standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint. If what you're doing right now is not putting you in a position where you're going to be happy in a couple months or years, why are you doing it? Makes no sense. Of
Yeah. It's like doing the, I mean, it's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and
course.
over again, expecting a different result. Like, what are we talking about here?
And how sad of a lifestyle is that though? Like I mean, when you're in the suck, right? When I was just building out our entire CRM and all those workflows and all of dude, oh my God, I was spending 14 hours a day working on this on top of sales calls and meetings and managing a team. If I didn't have a light at the end of the tunnel, by no means would I have finished. I would have just scrapped it. I said, this is too hard, right? So imagine living your lifestyle in a way that there is no light at the end of the tunnel. What you're doing is not actually putting you in a position to reap the benefits. And then we talk about, a much deeper concept of depression, anxiety. Well, yeah, imagine living that lifestyle with no light. You're just working a monotonous schedule for what? I don't know.
You and me both. I don't know either, but it seems
Yeah.
that a lot of people are lights on nobody's home,
Hmm.
whether they be in coaching, whether they be in a regular job, and so if you had to recommend one book outside of sales that
Mm,
would give you an outside return in sales, but it's not a sales book,
mm.
what would you recommend?
Okay. Okay. Man, dang it. This is good. Can I say a couple?
Yeah, you can say whatever. Yeah.
Okay, just a couple, just a couple. So I'm reading a book right now. It's called Win by James or Daniel Pink. Phenomenal book. It's about like maximizing your time working when your body likes to work. This is different for everybody. You operate on like your circadian rhythm, learning when you function best. I think that's been phenomenal for me, right? We're most creative when we're most tired. That's a fact. When we're closest to a dreamlike state is when we are the most creative. So for my creative work, for what I do, I've actually restructured. It's going to be either in the morning or right at the end of the day when I'm dead tired. Okay. I think that's a really cool concept. So learning when you function and how you function, I think is a great thing for business, for relationships, for everything. So that's been a phenomenal book that I've been reading. I'm only about halfway through, so I have more to come on that. The other books are anything. David Goggins Can't Hurt Me, man. I was so obsessed with that when it first came out. I listened to it, I think 3 times, literally 3 times. Like as soon as it was over, I'm like, all right, time to start that up again. That helped me through a lot of stuff when I was getting C4F up and rolling. So phenomenal book.
Yeah, Goggins is an animal. Have you read any of Tim Grover?
Tim Grover, he has
Relentless.
yes. So he was Michael Jordan, Kobe.
Hmm.
He was like a lot of their coach,
Hmm.
correct?
Yep.
I read it's back in storage. I had the
Mhm.
book, I started it, we moved, and it got put in storage. So I have not finished it.
Both of his books are wonderful. And the one that came out most recently, I'm not sure which one it is. I have them both on Audible. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't know what you listen to
Yeah.
when you're in the gym or if you listen to anything at all, but I listen to really books when I'm in the gym.
Sure.
Wonderful, wonderful
Yep.
thing to keep me just paying attention to my watch for rest periods and
Yep.
not be scrolling on my phone. Do not disturb.
Man,
There we are, right there in Audible.
you are not kidding, man. I'll start working the whole time I'm at the gym. So if you get a good book and you just sit and you can just like envision what they're saying, I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's definitely a hack that I stole from a guy I used to work out with, actually, in the gym that I
Yeah.
used to coach at. Yeah, he would be headphones in, and you knew not to disturb him while he was working out. His
Smart.
sessions were 60 minutes on the dot from
Yep.
warm up to cool down. He would get enough volume in where he was only training 3 days a week, but he wouldn't talk to anybody, like at all.
That's me and
Period.
Brooke and I, we operate on the same. We found, both managing businesses. We talk about business too much. So when we're at the gym, when we're climbing, because we love rock climbing, when we're
Mm-hmm.
hiking, there's not there's not a lot of conversation. We just vibe because if we talk and it goes in that direction of business, we've defeated the purpose of whatever we're doing.
Yeah,
So that's
that
a
makes
not that we
sense.
don't speak, by the way. We do speak. It's just when we're doing activities, it's just like we're just hanging out.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I want to respect your time, man. I really appreciate you being here. Anything before we give the people where they can find you, anything that you want to leave anyone with?
It just I think what it comes down to, and I'm not going to do a shameless plug or CTA. I think this is a really, really fun podcast where I
You
didn't
you
have to.
can. You
I
can
don't
if you
want to.
want.
I don't want to. If people think I can help them, if they're curious at all, they can, here, they can go to our website, closersforfitness.com. And if anything that I said here resonates with you, great. I'm happy to have a chat. But I think the big thing comes if there's a lot of business owners or even those who don't own a business, what it comes down to is just do the uncomfortable thing. I was terrified. I grew up in a town with one stoplight, right? And I told you, earlier, I alluded to the fact that I grew up with, six siblings, single income, no money. Everything that I've done is a complete opposite of anything that I knew growing up. We never traveled ever. And now I live full time traveling the country, right? So it's like that terrified me. Not having that security of having a home, but like lo and behold, I'm living the best life I could have ever hoped for, making more friends, seeing more things, experience. I feel like I feel like a kid. So just go out, do the thing that makes you uncomfortable, see how it feels. Give it time though. Give it enough time to see how you're going to adapt. We said we'd give it 6 months. We're at the end of the 6 months and we're never going back to to just living in one location. Maybe we'll see, but do the uncomfortable thing. Do the thing that terrifies you, because it just might pay off.
That's beautiful. I like it. I like it. I think that are you familiar with Michael Easter? Comfort Code?
Nope.
He gave I think his keynotes are better than his books, to be fair. I think his book is redundant,
Fair.
super redundant. Loved him at GymCon this past weekend. Wonderful speaker. The
Mm-hmm.
Talking about Misogi and a bunch of other stuff, Eastern practices. It was a beautiful speech.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be something that I would check out, because literally his mantra is
Yeah.
just there's one trip every year that's going to take him so far outside of his comfort zone
Yeah.
that his comfort zone actually expands.
It's
And what his
amazing.
discomfort gets smaller and smaller every year because he's
Mm-hmm.
continued to push himself year over year over year. One trip every single year that pushes him even further outside of where he was previously.
I would love if you have any links on that, because that's what I'm doing, but without like true guidance. So
Yeah.
if I see somebody who's already doing it, man, that would be phenomenal if you could
Yeah,
send
man.
that.
I definitely will. I'll pop you something in the DMs. So they want to find you on Instagram, Closers for Fitness,
Sure.
on your website, closersforfitness.com or
Yep.
.co, or is it?
Yep. So it's just .com, www.closersforfitness.com. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. There's 700 some people in there. We give away a lot of stuff. I give away the script, objection handling. I go live and answer questions. I think it's the highest support you can get from a sales coaching perspective for free. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go ahead and find me there. We're on YouTube, the podcast,
Mhm.
TikTok. I think I'm on. So yeah, we're all over the place now.
kind of all over the place. We'll link everything in the show notes, both on YouTube and on all the streaming sites, so anyone will be able to just one click, and we'll go from
Beautiful.
there. And again, dude, I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to end the recording here. Don't go anywhere yet.
Sure.
And for everyone watching or listening, thank you so much for your most precious resource, your attention. We will see you back again in 2 weeks on this podcast with another guest. And until then, hope y'all are living well. And Brent, dude, really appreciate you making the time.
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.